Hi, this is Sally Morgan for Conversations with a Corgi and Tristan Corgi, who's having a little nap down here. I am a physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington TTouch practitioner for animals and people, and Tristan is a Corgi. We are here today on St. Patrick's Day to say Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Tristan is wearing his shamrocks. We have a shamrock behind us. And it really is a day when many, many people across the country and across the world really wear green to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. This holiday originally came about because it was the celebration of when Christianity was brought to Ireland in the 1700s. And St. Patrick's Day of his departure, his death, was today. So that's why St. Patrick's Day is celebrated on this day. For many people now, St. Patrick's Day, as it is so close to the beginning of spring, and we are wearing green and celebrating with shamrocks, it has come to represent the beginning of spring and rebirth and renewal. And one of the interesting traditions of St. Patrick's Day that I did not know about until recently is that people traditionally put a shamrock up in the bottom of their beer or their whiskey that they were having to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And then when they drank it, they either swallowed the shamrock or pulled it out and tossed it over their shoulder for good luck, similar to our tradition of throwing salt over your shoulder for good luck. But that comes from another idea. So I am happy that Tristan is wearing his little shamrock scarf today, and it's sunny here, although it is only 20 degrees, and it was 9 degrees last night, which is quite cold. St. Patrick's Day also holds a special place in my world because my birthday is March 16th, and on March 15th we have the Ides of March, and so this is a whole time of celebration for me. We will be talking more about birthdays tomorrow on Saturday at 9:25 with Conversations with a Corgi. Today we're going to continue our discussion of Tellington TTouches with our final circular touch in this series, which will be the Chimp Touch. And the Chimp Touch has many interesting applications and implications for people and working with their animals. The Chimp Touch uses the knuckles, the flat part of the knuckles, to do the circles like this. We have found over the years that this touch is actually really good for people who have arthritis or not good articulation in their finger joints to do the other circular touches. So if you're just using your knuckles, you only have to use this part of your hand to make the circle. You hold your hand like you're going to knock on the door, although frankly, I don't think that knocking on a door is really good for your knuckles in the long run. So you're just going to make that circle with the flat part of your knuckles. Your thumb is still stabilizing, is 2 to 3 inches away from the rest of your fingers, and your whole group of fingers makes that circle together. And again, think of the middle finger as leading that circle in a quarter. Now, I have a story about the Chimp Touch that may be interesting. I had a client who had an injury working with the cattle at her farm and lost the tips of some of her fingers. And she had a horse that at times got nervous, but it was mostly a reflection of her nervousness. Because she couldn't hold the reins the same way as she had, even though he was a calm and quiet horse, he was a little bit blustery sometimes, and she got really afraid. And so it was really coming from her, not him. He was not really a reactive horse or a horse prone to running away or things like that. He was really calm. He was used as a driving horse, and she never ever cantered him. She was not happy cantering herself under saddle, and she was also really afraid when he was cantering. So I taught her how to do T-touches first on him and then on herself. And I told her that whenever she was getting nervous, she could just put the reins down on his neck and do this Chimp Touch on the horse's neck while she's still holding the rein, and that would help calm him down. Now, I don't know that 2 or 3 circles of a nervous rider on a horse that's trotting doing the Chimp Touch is necessarily going to work in every case. But in this case, it calmed her down so much, just concentrating on something besides her fear to do the circles, that he was able to slow down and come back to the walk every time she did it. But we had an added side benefit over time. Now, the nerves in her hand had been damaged, I don't know, maybe 8 years before I knew her. And by doing these circular chimp touches on her horse's neck, we started to see movement in the fingers around the missing fingers and in the joints of her hand where she had not had movement in years. And she was doing it with both her right and her left hand, and there is a certain amount of overflow that goes from the left brain to the right brain, and so her injured hand was really learning from her uninjured hand, even though her injured hand was her dominant hand. So that's another interesting thing about TTouch and the connections between the right and left brain through the corpus callosum in the center of the brain, which we will talk more about at another time. So this woman's ability to do these chimp touches actually helped bring innervation and movement back into her fingers and also help calm her horse through calming herself before he got really excited and started to do a strong trot when she was riding him. So the chimp touch has always been one that is near and dear to me because of the great effect it had on this woman I was working with in probably 1990 or 1989. So I will show you today more about the chimp touch with Tristan and my British stuffed corgi. So you're using the flat part of your knuckles, and just to remember, we're doing a circle and a quarter, imagining the face of a clock, starting at the 6 and making that circle and a quarter around the face of the clock back to the 9. And it's just one circle. Now notice when I had my thumb here how hard it was for me to do the circle, so make sure your thumb is away. See, I can make a much better circle when my thumb isn't curled up into my hand. Now, try this on yourself because you'll notice that your knuckles are bony and it's not really a comfortable touch over your hand because your bones are just running over your bones. So this touch has usually been used on, big shoulder muscles on a horse. And we don't use it so much on a dog or a cat. However, if you can get good enough at doing this that there's a lightness in the way you do this circle, you actually can get quite a lot of good response on a dog or a cat, sometimes on their hind end using this. I've used it primarily on shoulder muscles of dogs and cats, for cats that have been jumping a lot and injured their shoulders, and the same for my dog, who also being small likes to jump on and off of the sofa. We don't let him jump off of the bed, but sometimes his shoulder muscles get quite sore. It's not a touch we use a lot on small animals, however. Keep in mind that when you're doing this, our pressures go from a 1, the lightest you can feel here, to a 9, which is hardly ever used on small animals and rarely on horses. So with the chimp touch, 3 times more than the lightest touch on your eye that you can feel comfortably is a 3, and that's the most we'll ever use on a chimp touch on a dog or a cat. So keep in mind that this is a really light touch, but you still want to get the connection through the fur to the skin so that you're moving the skin in a circle. And if you have a really heavily furred dog, this actually is a good touch to use because it can get through the layer of hair to connect with the skin in a way that can really affect the dog. I use this a lot on Tristan's shoulders because they do, as I say, get sore sometimes, especially right now his left shoulder's been sore. And I use it on the haunches of big muscled dogs, pit bulls, Labradors, Rottweilers, Bulldogs, any of those more heavily muscled dogs really like this on their haunches and sometimes on their shoulders. So I'll show you on our demonstration corgi. Keep the thumb away from the knuckles, and you're just going to make that circle and a quarter. And again, we're generally going in a clockwise direction. I don't know what this looks like to you because it is backwards on the screen. Now, one thing you should recognize is that with small animals, I rarely do chimp touches only. Usually I might do a few chimp touches and follow it up with an abalone or a lying leopard, something that is a comforting kind of touch, because it can feel really deep because you are doing it with your knuckles. And notice if your dog likes it, because some dogs really won't like it. Like with a little Chihuahua, this might be way too much for him. So now I will show you some chimp touches with Tristan. Oh, his pillows are sinking. Can you sit up, honey? Where's that other leg? There you go. Honey, you need to sit up a little more. We had a really long walk yesterday. And as I said, Tristan's been having some soreness in his shoulders for a few weeks now. So we've already done some chimp touches this morning. Get your pee out. And see how he's leaning into me? He likes the chimp touch on his shoulders, and so he's trying to get me to use a little more pressure. I'm probably using a 3 at this point. And because of the hardness of your knuckles, this is a touch that you might want to do a little faster so that it's not too intense in any one spot. So certainly a 2-second circle, not a 3-second circle, and possibly a 1.5-second circle would be good for this. And the chimp touch is one of the ones I do if I ever get a calf cramp, putting on or taking off my boots or in the middle of the night, because it does have that level of intensity with the knuckles in many places, and so it can really diminish some of that pain in your calf or in any pulled muscle that you might have that's really in spasm. And that is just a reminder that in fact Tellington TTouch works with the nervous system, not the muscular system. So the reason it's effective with a muscle spasm is because we're telling the nerves to quiet down and pay attention, as opposed to asking the muscles. And again, our intention with all TTouch is to remember your potential for perfection, really in the cells under our hands. Now I've been working on his other shoulder this morning, and since this one is next to me, I'm finding that this shoulder is sore as well. He had a really splendid walk with his little friend Coco up the street yesterday. Loves her name. And the snow is almost 2 feet deep, and where they've plowed it, it leaves a big hill up the side of the road. Really, it's like the Grand Canyon to a Corgi. And he and Coco, who's a Cairn Terrier, were jumping up and down the hills and into the street and really enjoying themselves. So Tristan did a lot of jumping, and if he got too exuberant, he found himself over his head in snow in a field, and then he had to really jump and leap and pull with his front legs to get out of the snow. Being an active boy like he is, he wanted to show off for his girlfriend, Coco, one of his girlfriends. He also has Dory in New Jersey. So I'm not surprised that he is really enjoying these chimp touches this morning on his shoulder so much. I also use the chimp touch on my biceps and my triceps and my upper arms if I personally have been lifting things that are heavy, like moving jump poles around or carrying in groceries or doing any kind of lifting, heavy cleaning work, raking, shoveling snow. Just a few of these touches on these big muscles really is effective to help relieve some of the tension there. Hey, Bess. So what I would use the chimp touch for generally is muscular soreness, heavily muscled animals that have tight muscles. It's not one that would be your first choice for an anxious or nervous dog, just because it is a little intense because of the hardness of your muscles. I have used it on some nervous horses who had big spasms in their haunches, and they were sort of scooting away from that. And this got just a few, 2 or 3 chimp touches, really got a change in what was happening in their haunches so that they could help quiet down. But it is not, as I said, the first touch you would use for a nervous or stressed animal. What do you think, Tris? And we now have several, they aren't really versions of a chimp touch, but related touches, the orang, the baby orang, and others that are similar. But so far, this is going to be the end of our circular touches discussing TTouch. And tomorrow, we will continue on and we will discuss birthdays, because tomorrow, although my birthday was yesterday, will be my birthday party. And I have some really interesting information for you about birthdays and your dog's birthdays. So that's where we will focus tomorrow. And then Sunday, we will do something on a more spiritual talk. And then Monday, we'll continue on with our journey through understanding more about Tellington TTouch with some of the specialized touches and some of the touches that are more lifts and slides rather than just circles. So this is Sally Morgan, Conversations with a Corgi, with Tristan Corgi, wishing you a happy St. Patrick's Day and enjoy practicing your circular TTouches over the next few days with your pet. And we'll close with a heart hug for Tristan. And remember, as always with your heart hug, think of love and appreciation for your pet as you do it, on your pet or on yourself. Have a wonderful day. It's been pleasant getting back in touch with you this morning, having had 2 days off to do my work as an educator. And next week we will not be live on Wednesday. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.